Age of Empires 3 tips. So the biggest tip I have is make sure you find a starting point where the terrain is to your advantage. You see the cliff over here, and there's a cliff over here. I relocated my town center up onto the cliff and built some of the key buildings here, and all of my defensive buildings are over here, and then I tripled up on the wall. Once I got that in place, I found another location that has cliffs over here, and I built up as many buildings as I could to collect resources. Once you have the maximum number of buildings, we're talking about banks, having the maximum number of people collecting resources, whatever the maximum buildings are, you're going to start advancing at the fastest rate, which means you should eventually equalize and surpass the enemy. So the other thing you want to do is find buildings like this native embassy, and you see it's got these different warriors. They do not add to your population. So you want to have access to these. There are more over here, the trading post, so that you can have a much larger army. Keep in mind there are limits. For example, over here it says 3 out of 28, and over here it says 0 out of 12. That allows you to have a fighting force and maximize your population. Some nations have very powerful weapons that are found in the tavern. So you want to know which building is the tavern. I thought it was this right here. And then you're going to find like this one has 30 XP, 40 XP. I've seen over 100 XP. This one's got 45 XP. So if you build the powerful ones, it's going to be good for attacking, maybe not so much for defense. The other thing you want to do is make sure you got a good set of cards. I've got 31 that I can pick, but none of them are reusable. You want at least one that's reusable, otherwise you get to a point where you can't use them anymore. And anything with the military you want to save until you're about to go into battle. Some of the things like where you build a building, you only get to use it once. So if the building gets destroyed, you lose the building. You want to get things like the fortress. I build compartments and I hide my army in the compartment, so that when the enemy comes, I rush out and attack him and I can run back and hide. What this means is that he was advancing and I was building compartments to try to get him further away from my territory. And then over here, somewhere, I built the base that I used to attack him. And you surround it with a wall. This is the enemy. He is surrounded. He can't leave. If he tries to come after me, my towers will shoot him. And it looks like I've got something over here. It looks like it's a llama. Not very useful. And you can see I built a bunch of buildings over here just for the fun of it. The rail line has advantages because obviously it collects stuff. You can decide what you want to receive, if you want gold or food or wood or experience. I think experience is used for the trading card, so after a while you don't need it anymore. And it's nice, but I wouldn't lose the game trying to get the trading posts. The enemy has a boat over here. Not very useful on this map. You can build the wall across the water. You can see over here I've got a river and I built a wall across it. You want to make sure you upgrade whatever you can. This one has 50 XP, which means it might be my strongest weapon. You want to make sure you do as many upgrades. There's some that I did not do, but I don't remember which ones they were, but they just weren't worth it because they're like 50,000. It's something to do with like a spy or something like that. So you're going to do 99% of the upgrades. The other thing you do is you see this building over here? Build some buildings outside your territory, like the capital, so that he will attack the building and your defenses will attack his warriors. You can also use some of the buildings as a wall. I think they actually can walk through here, but I don't think they walk all the way through. I'm really not sure. This is my army right over here. They just have to go knock this building down and it's game over. He, in fact, probably surrendered. In terms of like the treasures, a lot of them just aren't worth it. You want to use your guy with the one shot where he just fires one shot and he kills the animal. There's a lot of resources. You really don't need them because you're going to have things like the farm or the estate, the farm for food, the estate for gold, the marketplace, the bank, etc. So you don't want your guy to risk your guys out here, even though usually they were left alone. Going after all the treasures I thought was mostly a waste of time. With the animals, you want to make sure that you keep them for a while because they fatten up. You want them when they're fat. For example, the llama over here is 400/400. If you get a new llama, he's going to be like 100/400. So you have to wait for them to fatten up over time. Like these sheep are 300/300. Oh, over here, I think I can make sheep over here. They come out. They're worth it. You pay 100 and you get 300. So it's worth it to produce sheep. They pay off or you break even. In terms of town centers, you can build at least 3. You're going to want to move the first one. Your original one will be destroyed. You see there's a guy over here working for me. And then you build the first one here. You move a second one over to here. And then another one. You build in a protective spot, but these are the most vulnerable. He's going to break through here. He's going to destroy all your buildings that were over here. He destroyed everything over here. But guess what happened? While he was destroying all of my buildings, I took out these cannons and I destroyed everything he had. I just knocked them all down. So don't worry if he's knocking your buildings down. Give him some stuff to waste his time on, to knock down. And while he's doing that, go knock everything down. The other thing you do is if you let him take the trading post, you can go and start attacking it. He'll send his army over there, and it will also distract his army while you go and destroy all of his buildings. This game was on the hard mode. You can see it says difficulty hard. I did starting resources high because, I just didn't want it to be so unfair because I had played enough games. The other thing I recommend is pause the game often. Use this feature where you can find someone who's not doing anything. This shows you the people that are working on gold. This shows you people that are working on food, not very useful. All of this stuff is not very useful. The flare is not useful. I guess this is what I'm receiving from trade. You can see I'm way above, almost double the enemy. It came from smart gameplay. Okay, so those are some tips for Age of Empires 3. Don't forget to go to cheapbooks.com to buy your books and textbooks and tell all your friends.